My friends, good evening. I tried to resist all day, but I finally gave in to the temptation to make this video to look at this absolutely revolutionary front page in a British newspaper. I'm going to keep this newspaper. It's a collector's item. What does this front page say? It says that trans women are not women. So it's a decision by the UK Supreme Court which was asked this question and ended up making a ruling. It means that today, in 2025, the United Kingdom has finally recognized that being a woman is a biological reality. It's something that's written in the DNA. It's not just a feeling, it's not just an emotion, because until very recently, at least in the past few years, people in the United Kingdom didn't really know what a woman was anymore. So the implication of this ruling, the implications are very profound. First, why does the newspaper write this in big letters? It's a way of asserting something that until yesterday, until 2 days ago, until 3 days ago, could have ended up in court. It means that this same front page, if it had been published a week ago, the journalist would have lost his job and the offices of this newspaper would have been raided by the police, and it would have been considered a hate crime, literally. You see, it changed overnight. I'm not saying the country is regaining its sanity. I'm not saying that, okay? Personally, if I had to vote, I wouldn't have voted for or against. I would have abstained. I don't believe in this country at all anymore. This country is completely in a collective delusion, and even if they've solved this particular problem, it won't stop them from finding another Libya tomorrow morning and continuing to chase it hysterically. I'll just give you a few examples maybe in this case and what will change. Simple example. Yesterday, for example, you could have a male police officer who declares himself female and therefore has the right to search women. That normally means, when it comes to body searches in case of arrest or things like that, or searches or whatever, normally women are searched by women and men by men. However, it was enough for any male police officer to declare himself a woman. Because we operated on the idea that being a woman is a declared feeling, it was simply a declarative gender. It doesn't correspond to any biological reality, so we're in complete denial of women. Understand that it's true that sometimes we make fun, but honestly, sometimes we make fun of Muslim countries. We say, yes, over there, women don't have all their rights and so on. In reality, it took until April 2025 for a country like the United Kingdom to realize that women exist. Maybe in some time we'll discover things differently, but for now, it seems to be a nearly revolutionary step in the right direction. Let's get back to this police story. The police just announced that from today, women will have the right to be searched by women, not by men who claim to be women. If the woman had refused, she could have made her situation worse by facing a hate crime charge. This is just another example. At the hospital, we had a case. It's a woman who is in a department for surgeries, gynecological surgeries. And at some point in preoperative and postoperative care, well, she's assigned a female nurse who takes care of her. That involves a lot of things: cleaning, changing dressings, medications, all of that. And so she is in an extremely vulnerable situation, as you can imagine. And she wanted, and usually most women want this, she wanted a female nurse. Well, we say, yes, there's no problem. You want a nurse, of course. And we bring her a man. The problem is, she said, no, I want a female nurse. Did you know that the hospital administrators were called and then they told her, pack your things, you're out. You're leaving the hospital now. That's a hate crime, what you just did. To tell you honestly, I don't hide it. I'm among people who scare me. They frighten me, the British. That's why I'm in the final stages, let's say, of preparing to leave this country. The United Kingdom scares me. You heard me right. They really scare me. Because any whim that pops into their heads, they'll pursue it with a zeal that knows no bounds. Imagine doctors forcibly removing a sick woman who needs surgery just because she didn't want to give in, didn't want to play this mandatory role-playing game. She didn't want to accept this sinister role-playing game. They kicked her out. Actually, I'm very shocked to see that the British, when they embrace an ideology, they are like the Germans of the 1930s. They have absolutely no limits. There's no humanity left in them. That's it. I don't want to see these zombies or drones anymore. They scare me. I saw it here, right in their eyes. I saw what a zombified Brit can become. It's something very, very frightening. They are sure of their power. They're arrogant due to their power and ready for anything. So the woman was fired from the hospital. We also had some cases. I talked about it. I exposed it many times in my videos. We have criminals, killers, predators, right? Who, when they arrive in men's prisons, well, what they do is, as soon as they get there, they call the administration and say, there you go, I've changed, I've declared that I'm a woman. Once they declare that they're a woman, well, right away they become a woman. Yes, it's a kind of, it's not even a transition, as they say. For me, I don't even call it a transition, it's a metamorphosis. They've been transformed and they're taken to women's prisons. They arrive in women's prisons, you can imagine what will happen. They're going to attack them, they're going to expose themselves, they're going to brutalize them, all that. The women who went to complain, they were told, you're complaining, you know you just committed a hate crime, and because she committed that crime, well, later on, when it comes to deciding on parole or early release or something else, it won't work. Because they'll say her behavior is absolutely appalling and so she'll stay in prison. So she has a choice between two things. Either let it happen, say nothing, do nothing, or go complain to the administration. And at that point, she'll be condemned to stay, to endure even more for even longer. And I'm telling you, that's why it's something that completely frightens me. What we also discovered is that for many years now, public health, well, they erased the data, the British health databases, and they erased the mentions of men and women and replaced them with a self-identification system. So that, for example, today there are plenty of things we can't do. For example, we can't screen for diseases. We can't screen for diseases in men or diseases in women because the databases have become completely corrupted, because we've removed the notion of biological sex. We also discovered that doctors, take one doctor for example, and this doctor makes medical errors or commits fraud. And things like that, actually, at some point he will be about to get caught. In fact, he is about to be literally struck off. So what does he do? He changes sex, and when he changes sex, he changes his name. And because in the central files, the sex marker and name have changed, so from a computer standpoint, it's no longer the same person. And then he will be reborn with an empty file. That means suddenly everything he did for years, all the medical mistakes, the patients he messed up, everything, all of that is completely erased, wiped out. That's it. We also had terrible cases of men who were found in women's changing rooms. In stores, there are women who complain because there are abuses and everything. And what happens? What about their rights? The managers of these stores tweet, "We are proud to allow worms trans people to use the women's changing rooms. And if you're not happy, the door is wide open. Get out." These are really people. Once again, it's a population that becomes very, very dangerous when an ideology is imposed on it. And even if today that ideology has experienced a great failure, I'm not here to celebrate. I'm not standing in front of you to say, look, great, we're not going in the right direction. It's not possible. I take my things, I leave. Whether they take a step in the right or wrong direction, it doesn't interest me anymore. Personally, it doesn't interest me anymore. Whether they take steps in the wrong direction or the right direction, it's good for them. They know what they're doing. Me, I'm going to stay with people who are hysterical and sterilized at that level. So if you put all these stories together, we've reached the point where today, for example, if I'm with my daughter and she wants to go into the restroom, even the women's restroom, I'm forced to go in. I have to go in, take a look, scan, because there have been unspeakable horror stories, repeated stories that have literally become the signature of our society. And so what happened is that all these stories ended up creating resistance within civil society. even though I'm talking about a very, very narrow section of British civil society which still has this capacity to resist. I'm not talking about the majority that is apathetic, that is completely apathetic, who can always agree with you. If you talk to them, you can go talk to them and listen, they can agree with you, but it will stop there, they'll nod, and that's it. Sometimes you wonder if they agree with you because they really believe it. Also, if they want to end the conversation or dismiss you, that's the level we're discussing. So that's it, my friends. Because of this, at some point, the matter ended up before the authorities. Devant la Cour. And Paz Fioritaria did things, had things that did. From now on, it is valid in the future, but it is also valid in the past. That means that actually never in the United Kingdom, so for all past procedures, never has a man been able to be a woman. In reality, that doesn't exist. And also notice one last thing, that we are making a decision about the woman, not about the man. Because if you look, for example, at athletes, you will very rarely find a woman who says she's a man to go compete among male athletes. That doesn't exist. You'll never see that. On the other hand, what we've seen a surge, a pretty powerful surge, a real groundswell of men coming in and competing. He usually wins among women, often by a huge margin. And sometimes we've seen some pretty grotesque victories, like for example in swimming, you have the man finishing first and then the women arrive several pool lengths behind. It's not like in close races where there's a photo finish. You have the first one arriving, then a quarter of a second later the second, and a quarter of a second later the third. No, here you have the first one arriving. He breaks a historic record and then, well, the last one. We've even seen sports competitions where the two finalists were men in women's sports competitions. We've seen running races where the guy comes in first and then the woman, he arrives alone. I mean, that's just the facts. The second one is several minutes behind. She'll eventually arrive one day and then he's going to break a record. Who's going to stay? A touch. We've seen women like in fencing who said, I'm not playing. The problem is that these women who refuse to play, because there are a lot of people who say yes, but women just have to refuse to play. That, unfortunately, my friends, is something you shouldn't say, and I'll tell you why. Because that statement is shifting the blame. It's a reversal. Blaming a woman means saying to her, you know what? You can train for years, struggle to get sponsors, pay a lot to the federation, the fees, the coach, sacrifice your life, sacrifice your studies to train all day. It's tough 7 days a week and all that. You arrive at this competition, you've been preparing for years, and the first man who shows up down there, it's your fault. Just turn around and say, no, I'm not playing. Then you go back and lose everything. Your sponsor bans you and may even demand refunds. You lose everything and have nothing left. Just because she showed herself, that's not acceptable. We can't create a society where women are subjected to predation. And when they have a man in front of them, either they lose or they get destroyed. And he takes the medal that rightfully belonged to her, or well, she loses everything and leaves, and in the end he wins by default. We can't build like that. Once again, I come from a Muslim country. I'm telling you, we can't build a society that way. Or there, where women are denied, where there is an institutional denial of women, where it's declared that women are so worthless. Women are considered so bad that any man can become a better woman than her, that she's not even good. Being a woman, that's absolutely unacceptable, and that's what the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom declared. Of course, this decision is only valid in the United Kingdom. It won't spread elsewhere. And of course, as I said earlier in this video, don't think that this decision is a step that means the United Kingdom is freeing itself from woke ideology, etc. On the contrary, it's completely immersed in it. And apart from this mishap, let's call it a bump in the road, the rest of the news isn't very encouraging. Thank you, my friends, for listening to this video, and I hope to see you again in another video very soon.